Welcome to a very special bonus Sports Mole episode looking ahead to this weekend's blockbuster Premier League game between Liverpool and Arsenal. My name is Ben Napton, and I'm delighted to be joined by both Arsenal expert Charles Watts and Liverpool expert David Lynch. Now, first point of order is we are recording this before PSG versus Arsenal's second leg, so some information could change. Knowing Arsenal, they'll most likely get another season-ending injury in Paris, but as far as we know, all information is accurate at the time of recording. So, just starting with this PSG Arsenal game, Charles, looking, whatever happens, if Arsenal can pull off a phenomenal comeback, if they do go out, how difficult will it be for them to quickly switch focus on this game at Anfield?
Oh, it's a tough one to really answer. I mean, publicly they'll say it's relatively easy. It's a big game. It's Anfield. It's a game they're going to want to win. But I mean, to be honest, the way they've played in the last couple of months, really, it doesn't look like there's been much focus on the Premier League anyway. They haven't been great. So I wouldn't be going to Anfield full of confidence. Whatever happens tonight, win or lose, I think it's going to be a very difficult day for Arsenal at Anfield. It's a ground where they're quite frankly terrible at and have been for years. So I wouldn't be expecting too much, but you never. I mean, it's going to be party central at Anfield, isn't it? Fair play to Liverpool. This is going to be the day they've waited an awful long time to really sort of celebrate. I don't know, David. Did they get a trophy on Sunday, David?
No, it'll be the last game of the season at home to Crystal Palace. Yeah,
Okay, yeah. So I wasn't sure if that was going to happen or not, but whatever happens, it's going to be party central, isn't it, for Liverpool in that game? And I think it's going to be difficult for Arsenal coming off the back of whether it's a win or a defeat in Paris.
Absolutely. So yeah, I mean, party central is the best way to describe it. But David, looking at this PSG game for Arsenal, obviously Liverpool would have had a week's rest in between their last game. They made several changes against Chelsea. Arsenal went full strength against Bournemouth. They'll go full strength against PSG as well. So this European tie for Arsenal, should that really play into Liverpool's hands this weekend?
yeah, you would think so. I mean, he kind of can read it either way. I guess if Arsenal do go out, it's an opportunity to really bounce back, isn't it? And come to Anfield and maybe make a statement and say that if they hadn't had some poor luck, which I think they have at times, and you look at the injury record, some kind of iffy decisions early in the season, I think. Arsenal would have been a lot closer to Liverpool. There's no denying that really. And so, if they go out to PSG, maybe they see it as an opportunity to maybe make a statement and prove that fact. If they go through, which obviously is very possible, then I guess it's maybe an opportunity to they'll probably look at it as, well, so what? We've got a Champions League final coming up, rest a few players and make changes there. So you can make the argument that they'll approach it in a couple of different ways, really. But I think for Liverpool, the crowd's going to be up massively. It is a bit of a celebration now, these final few games that Liverpool have got. And also they did rest a few at Chelsea, but I expect that you're going to see something a little bit stronger against Arsenal as well, because for Liverpool themselves, I guess an opportunity to make a statement too, in that to show that the team that's been second best this season, that there is a gap there and that they are the better side. So yeah, I expect a strong Liverpool, and it is helpful for them to have the week long build up and for Arsenal to have that big game in midweek. So that should make things a little easier for Liverpool, or certainly play into the hands, as you said.
Yeah, what you said there about Arsenal, of course, it hasn't felt like it for a lot of the season, but they are still statistically the second best team in the Premier League. So, I mean, Charles, looking at, this could have been a title decider. Of course, it's not. We can all agree Liverpool have been by far and away the best team in the land. Just first of all, what lessons do Arsenal need to take from this Liverpool side when it comes to how to win a Premier League title?
Keeping your best players fit will be a good start. It's something Arsenal need to definitely improve on. I mean, it's hard. It's easy for us to sort of sit here and say, "Oh, you've got to improve on keeping your best players fit," but sometimes it is just down to bad luck, and I think they have been hit with some bad luck at times. But I think Mikel needs to certainly take a lot from Klopp Slot in terms of sometimes sort of rotating his squad. You look at the really sort of big injuries that Arsenal got to some really key players, like losing Saka for 4 months, losing Havertz for 4 months, now losing Gabriel for the season. They're three of the most important players who play pretty much every single minute, and they've all had their hamstrings torn off the bone. And, that one feels unlucky, two feels maybe coincidental, three just feels like this is something wrong here that you need to learn from. And I think what Slot's done this season has been really good. I think he's managed his squad pretty well. I think Liverpool did start to show signs of tiring in the sort of latter half of the season, but by then, obviously, they were over the hill and riding off into the sunset by that point, and no one could take advantage of that. And I think Slots just had a brilliant first season. Everything he's touched has basically turned to gold for them in the Premier League. And I think Arsenal certainly need to take some lessons from that, and they need to learn from the mistakes they made in the last couple of transfer windows. They left themselves really, really short, too short, and that caught up with them. They just played their best players for too many minutes over the last couple of seasons, with a sort of summer tournament in between as well, and it was just too much. Those players break down, and they can't afford for that to happen again next season if they want to, get closer to Liverpool, let alone get past them.
Yeah, I think what you said there about, the squad, and you look at the options off the bench sometimes for Liverpool and Arsenal, there's sort of, it's night and day by that really. And yeah, so David, looking as well, as Charles said, Liverpool are over the hill, they've got the title, whereas Arsenal still haven't yet wrapped up this top five finish. So, whatever happens against PSG, they'll still have something to play for in the Premier League. If Liverpool say, if this was a title decider, if Liverpool hadn't yet won the title, would you maybe be more confident going into this one than say now that Liverpool are just sort of cantering towards that ceremony?
Yeah, I think the motivation levels are going to be slightly different. I mean, I just think the PSG game is a big kind of spanner in the works for Arsenal in terms of that. But I think the motivation level for them is higher because they do have to make sure that they kind of see it over the line in terms of securing Champions League. And for Liverpool, the motivation isn't quite there. I think we saw that at Chelsea at the weekend. That was not a great performance from Liverpool, but you can't really be too critical because the reason that came about was because they'd already secured the title. So yeah, I think the crowd would be louder. I think it would be a more intense game, and I think Liverpool would probably play better if they had something on the line. But they are coming up against an Arsenal side that is still missing some really big players, and form is taking a hit as a result of that. So despite the fact there's not too much on the line for Liverpool, I still think they'll feel that if they go strong, which they should do, that they have more than enough to beat Arsenal in this one because the record at home is so good as well.
Yeah, Charles, we've spoken about Arsenal's recent form in the Premier League just yesterday. Actually, more dropped points against Bournemouth. That's now 21 points dropped from winning positions this season. That's their joint most in a single campaign. But if Arsenal can score thirds, it's going to be really fascinating to see how they approach it. In your eyes, Charles, if Arsenal do go 1-0 up, do they have to attack Liverpool, try to get that second goal, but then leave themselves open to that, potential devastating counter-attack? Or do they have to try and hold that 1-0 lead, even though they've let so many slip this season?
I don't think they can try and hold on to the lead because history just suggests it, certainly recently, that they're not really able to do that. They've got to go for the second goal. Too many games. 17 games out of 35 in the league this season, they've scored none or one goal. So it just leaves all pretty much. It feels like every single game this season has been on a knife edge up until the 90th minute, and you always leave yourselves open at that point to conceding, whether it be from a set piece, which Arsenal concede a lot from, whether it be someone scoring a worldie, whether it's one deflects in, and that's been Arsenal's big problem. They just have not scored enough goals. When they have scored, they've scored it in gluts. Suddenly they'll score 5 past Man City, 7 past PSV, but the vast majority of games have either been, it's just been a 1-goal game, and it doesn't matter how good you are defensively in the Premier League. That just always leaves you open to being hit by a bit of a sucker punch. And of course, at the weekend, it was 2 sucker punches that hit them in a game that they really should have put to bed miles earlier. And we know Liverpool, the attacking talent they've got, the options that they've got to change things off the bench if things aren't going well. You can't just sit back on a 1-goal lead if you get in front. So no, if they do score, if they get themselves in front, then they've got to go for the second. Absolutely have to go to the second. I think the way Liverpool play will sort of, it would mean that they would have to do that anyway. And as David said, there is still stuff on the line here for Arsenal, and 3 points would be huge for them given the form that they've been in, given they've got Newcastle coming up after that. They really need to get this top 5 position secured, and it's ridiculous we're even saying that, but that's the form's dropped off so alarmingly in the past 2 months. That's the situation we're now in. So yeah, get themselves in front. Got to go for it. Can't be sitting back at Anfield. You do that, you're just, what's going to happen if you do that.
I find that really interesting, by the way, just to come in on that, because I think it's you talk about a side that can't keep a lead and is giving them away constantly. You almost think instinctively that is a defensive weakness. But for me, and I don't know Arsenal as well as you at all, Charles, but I think that has been the big difference between Arsenal and Liverpool this season is that Arsenal are still incredible in the defensive sense, but they just don't score enough goals to give themselves a cushion from things just happen in terms of a long throwing into your box and you concede a goal from that. No matter how good you are defensively, that can happen, which is
Mm.
why you need a 2 and a 3 goal cushion. And I think, no, it's not everybody's favourite, but you look at the expected goals and Liverpool are just, it's quite close in terms of expected goals against and defensive performances they're producing. But Liverpool are just streets ahead in terms of the expected goals for that they are generating. And I think that has been, we're talking about lessons that maybe Arsenal can learn. And they've been phenomenal these past couple of seasons prior to this one where things have kind of conspired against them. But I think if there is one lesson, it's just to tune things back towards that attack a little bit, isn't it? Really, I think that has maybe been the difference. You look at Liverpool at the moment, and they've got Federico Chiesa sat on the bench. He's barely kicked a ball this season, and that's the kind of strength and depth he's got in forward areas. So for me, that's been the big difference, really. And for Liverpool coming into this game, they'll feel that they've got a chance to kind of that's where the difference will be, is that they've just got that extra cutting edge this season.
Yeah, it's exactly that. And they've just left themselves really, really short. Everyone kind of predicted it in the summer when they did nothing in the transfer window to improve the attack. And then they did it again and sort of doubled down in that in January. It's sort of and they'd already lost Bukayo Saka at that stage for 4 months. And then everyone kind of predicted if you don't do anything, there'll be another injury. And then as soon as the window closed, they lost Jesus during the January transfer window. So you lost Saka and Jesus. And you still don't sign anyone to improve the squad, and then you lose Havertz as soon as the window shuts. So it's their own fault. No one really feels that's the thing. No one really feels sorry. Arsenal fans don't feel sorry for the club in this situation. They don't feel like it's bad luck. It's feel like they've left themselves open to this bad luck. They should have protected themselves more, and they've kind of taken their eye off the ball when it comes to improving the attack. It's been a long, long time. Even Kai Havertz, who's now the forward, he was signed as a midfielder. He's only become an attacker because it didn't quite work for him in midfield, and they found a position for him as a number 9, and he's done well in that position. But it's just been too long since they've done anything with that attack. You got a couple of youngsters, an academy player, Martinelli, who kind of came in as an academy player anyway, and just found his way into the first team. And Havertz as your forward line, they need more, and they will do more. This summer will be the summer where they improve things. There'll be at least 2 attackers coming in, and Arsenal will just hope that that could be the difference. So it sort of takes them to the next level, because you can't just go through a Premier League season winning 1-0. Like you said, teams are going to find a way to score against you. You're going to get nervy no matter how good your defence is. The longer the game stays at 1-0 and it just becomes a bit chaotic, you just leave yourselves open to concede them.
Yeah, just on that, Charles. I mean, talking about the attack there. I mean, like you say, with Arsenal's bench now, you'll often see the likes of, I mean, Ismail Kabia, Butler, Odeja on the bench, and like you were saying, David, you've got Chiesa, Jota, Nunes, Harvey Elliott a lot of the time. I mean, Charles, there's been quite a few talks about, Liverpool maybe looking at getting rid of Jota or Nunes this summer. Just want to ask, would you take either of them at Arsenal?
I love Jota. I remember at Wolves when I watched. I think it was the end of Emery's first season when Arsenal went to Wolves. They were in the race for Champions League, and Wolves destroyed them 3-0. And Jota was unbelievable, and I just thought he was great that night. And he always scores against Arsenal. He's got a brilliant record against him. Would I? I mean, I wouldn't say no to Jota. I don't think I'm not sure that's the route Arsenal would go down. Nunes, I just think there's a little bit too much scar tissue there now for anyone. I love what Nunes brings to a team. I love the chaos he brings, but I'm sure if you're a fan of that team, you wouldn't quite love it as much, because it would just be miss after miss after miss, and it would be really frustrating. It doesn't matter how good you are and how much chaos you bring and how you get yourselves into the position to score. If you don't actually score, it will grind you down as a fan, I'm sure. So no, not for me, but those are the sort of options that Arsenal need to be able to turn to, rather than, like you said, an academy product who you're going to be releasing at the end of the season on a free transfer because he's not up to the standard, or a washed up Raheem Sterling who, what a career he's had, but quite frankly has been beyond awful and doesn't even get a chance now because he's just not good enough to impact games anymore. So that's what you need on the bench, those sort of players, that sort of talent, and Arsenal just don't have that.
Yeah, I guess Nunes, there is a risk that Nunes could be the Olivier Giroud 2.0 from that 2015-16 season, which was, any Arsenal fan will remember that very not fondly. Anyway, so speaking of the summer as well, David, so this will be Liverpool's first game since Trent's decision to leave was announced. And from an outsider looking in, I mean, you'll know better than I do, but from a Liverpool perspective, it seemed the reaction is overwhelmingly negative. Whereas from maybe a neutral point of view, some rival fans can maybe understand his decision a bit more. So just curious, what reception do you think he's going to get from the Anfield crowd this weekend?
Yeah, I don't think it's going to be a warm reception, if I'm honest. I think, that he has been getting a warm reception in recent weeks because, after the Leicester goal that he scores, obviously the away end is singing his name. Again, his chant was being sung after Liverpool clinched the league against Spurs. But now there was always the possibility in play there of a U-turn and that he might commit his future and he might want to stay at Liverpool. But now, of course, it's been confirmed. Everybody knows. And I do wonder if he's, maybe you're going to hear a few boos. And I think it's an interesting one for Slot, actually, in terms of what he does with the team selection. I mean, he would want to go with his strongest possible team against Arsenal. But equally, I think, he's got to look after Liverpool now. And surely it makes sense to play Conor Bradley in that right back position, give him more minutes, give him as many games as you can. So, maybe we don't see Trent in the starting 11, but yeah, in terms of reception, I don't think it's going to be a good one. And I think, it's a difficult situation, really. I kind of understand arguments from all sides. I mean, he's a local lad who's come through and he's won everything it's possible to win at Liverpool, been an incredible servant for them. But he has also, some of the anger about it comes from the fact that, Real Madrid's are Liverpool's rivals. They've knocked them out of Europe 5 times in the last 8 seasons, I think is right to say, So, as much as you can say he's moving to a foreign country, he's not playing for a rival. They are a rival. They've hurt Liverpool a lot in recent years. And, to run your contract down and depart on a free, that's caused a lot of anger as well. And it does feel a little bit like he's kind of engineered this situation as well, because he signed his last contract around a time that you had players signing 5 and 6 year contracts. He signed a 4 year deal, which that Liverpool would have been reluctant to give him. So from all sides, everybody feels that this is being kind of in the works for a little while. And if you're a player as well who's kind of built your brand on being the local lad who loves Liverpool, you want to be Steven Gerrard's heir, you've got to kind of live that, haven't you? And if you don't, there are kind of consequences, which is the fans are not going to think as kindly of you, and maybe you are going to get a few boos, and maybe if you do come back with Real Madrid, you're not going to be massively well received. But Trent Alexander-Arnold's a big boy, and he probably acknowledges that, and as a Liverpool fan himself, will surely have an understanding for why that feeling of maybe a little bit of resentment is there. So, yeah, it's going to be interesting to see, A, whether he starts, and B, if he does get on the pitch, exactly what that reception is like. But my feeling is, you can't always judge from social media, but my feeling is it's not going to be a positive one.
Yeah, all eyes will certainly be on, whether he's on the pitch or on the bench for that one, Trent. I mean, if he is on the pitch, there is a chance, albeit a very small chance, that he could come up against Raheem Sterling on that flank, maybe just for the final 5, 10 minutes or so, if Sterling does get onto the pitch as well. But of course, Sterling, we know he'll not get a very good reception from the Anfield crowd. I'm just curious, David, can you compare their situations at all? I mean, I know Sterling didn't leave on a free, he left for pretty good money, but his situation was played out very publicly. He didn't sign a new deal, a young player coming through, leaving for, again, a rival. So, I mean, can you compare the way that Trent's leaving and the way that Sterling left?
Yeah, I guess the difference really in that case, I mean, the hurt from the fans felt around Sterling was basically the idea that he was just going to go and leave to earn more money. I never really bought into that. I guess he was definitely leaving to win trophies, and Liverpool were terrible at that time. So you can kind of understand it, but I think that was the source of the hurt really is you're leaving for a rival because you don't believe in this club, you don't buy into it or whatever. With Trent, that the hurt is more based in the fact that he was a local lad. This is his team, and this is a really successful side as well. So again, it kind of just begs the question: why would you want to go? So I guess pain from both have kind of dealt out pain to supporters in completely different ways, and Sterling has never had a really good reception at Anfield throughout his career, really, has he? And will it be similar with Trent in the future if he does come back, which feels likely with European competition and the way Real Madrid and Liverpool can't seemingly avoid each other. Yeah, it's an interesting one. So, but they are different situations, but I guess probably some similarities maybe in terms of the level of reception.
Interesting stuff. Yeah, so that is one potential 1v1 battle that could happen at Anfield. Wanted to touch on a few more. And Charles, this is one that you might as well think as well is the biggest one for me. Could be Mohamed Salah versus most likely Miles Lewis Skelly. Of course, Lewis Skelly, we speak about every week how he's fearless, he's unfazed by anything, and he's still not been dribbled past once in this Premier League season. That's an insane statistic for an 18-year-old. But of course, the Mohamed Salah test is the Mohamed Salah test. Nothing can compare to that. It'll be different to anything he's really faced in his career so far, Lewis Skelly. So, if it is Salah versus Lewis Skelly on that side, Charles, how do you think he will cope against one of the Premier League's all-time greats?
I think he'll be fine. I mean, look, you're coming up against Mohamed Salah, who can obviously get the better of absolutely anyone. But I don't think Lewis Skelly will be phased. Well, in fact, I know he won't be phased by it because he's not phased by anything. That kid, he just takes everything on board and just goes with it. Interestingly, the game back at the Emirates earlier in the season, Salah got away from Lewis Skelly in that game to set up the equaliser kind of late on. It was when it was Kivior and Lewis Skelly over on that side who'd never really played together. It was when Lewis Skelly just got into the team, and Salah just took full advantage of that little bit of space that was created, got in down the right, well, actually, it wasn't Salah who got in down the right, was it? Salah finished it off. I can't remember who it was who scored, who got down the right, but it was Lewis.
Nunes.
Was it Nunes who got exposed Lewis Skelly, and that was really early on in his Arsenal career. But kind of since that point onwards, it's one of the few times where you've really seen him exposed and make a mistake that's been punished, and he's just got better and better and better since that day forward. So I don't think he'll be phased by it at all. He'll love it. He'll relish it. I mean, I can't wait to see what he does tonight in the Champions League. What he did against Real Madrid over the two legs against them, So no, he won't be phased by it at all. I'm really looking forward to that battle. By the way, just on Sterling versus Trent, I'm not sure we'll see that battle at all because I'd be very surprised if Raheem Sterling gets on the pitch at Anfield at the weekend. On Trent as well, and just I think it's so interesting. I mean, he'll get a better reception, I'm sure, from the Arsenal fans than he will from the Liverpool fans on Sunday because it'll be one of the Arsenal fans will sort of seize on it as the one little moment, I'm sure, to try and get a little back because I'm sure they're going to get 90 minutes of the Liverpool fans enjoying themselves at the Arsenal fans' expense at Anfield. I was listening to Jamie Carragher earlier on this week and putting Carragher's hypocrisy to one side on telling people how they should feel. I thought he was right when he said that no one can really tell Liverpool fans how they should feel in this situation because it is such a thing for the Liverpool fans. We can all have our say on it from the outside and saying, well, why are they so wound up? Because he's given so many years, he's won all these trophies, he's done everything he needed to do, and he wants to try something new. And that feels like a perfectly decent angle to go at things from. But you just can't tell Liverpool fans how to feel in this situation because it will hurt them so much. It's so sort of individual to them, this situation. And I thought Carragher was absolutely spot on with that. Despite the fact it was coming from him who'd spent all season telling people how to celebrate goals and how they should feel and how they should celebrate wins, which I think is ridiculous. But I thought he was right, and I feel sorry for Liverpool fans on it because losing someone like Trent who's come through and homegrown and all that, it kind of reminds me of Ashley Cole from Arsenal when he went, albeit he basically did go for free in the end. Arsenal got William Gallas, which was the worst possible deal in that regard, but it still hurts now, like 20 years on, it still hurts now. And Ashley Cole's kind of beginning, not welcomed back, but he can come back now from time to time and not have 60,000 people booing him. And I'm sure it'll probably take about that sort of time for Trent. But yeah, I think it's been really interesting from the outside watching the reaction with the Trent move, and it's going to be a very interesting side note, I think, to Sunday's game.
I think what might actually take the edge off for Liverpool supporters is if they get to knock Real Madrid out of the Champions League over the next couple of seasons, maybe a couple of times, and maybe Trent doesn't do that well out there. I think that always kind of eases things. I think it's the reason that Fernando Torres is still quite well received at Anfield because his Chelsea time didn't work out at all. It was terrible for him. So
that didn't happen with Ashley Cole. That didn't happen with Ashley Cole. Arsenal had to watch him win absolutely everything with Chelsea for years to come after that. So the pain never went away.
Yeah, absolutely not. I mean, thankfully, I didn't start supporting Arsenal till about 2007, 2008, so I managed to avoid most of that Ashley Cole backlash, which is a good thing. But anyway, so yeah, that's one individual battle that is fascinating. Another one for me, David, is who Liverpool will start up front. So, I mean, Saliba, of course, will start in defence. Could be Kivior or maybe Calafiori. He's now back. And obviously, Salah's been in amazing form all season, but Liverpool just haven't found that like that ruthless number nine. I mean, Diaz has done a decent job in that position, but I mean, Jota's not been his ruthless self. Nunes, we've spoken about. And there were those reports that Liverpool weren't starting Nunes because of that extra payment to Benfica. Not sure how true that is, but Slot has said it's not true. I mean, I look at this game, given how physical Saliba, Kivior, and Calafiori will be. To me, this looks like an ideal game for Nunes to start. I mean, do you agree? Would you side with Nunes up front, or do you think it's got Jota or Diaz written all over it?
I just wonder whether he's going to go for Diaz, to be honest. Possibly on the basis that maybe Saliba would prefer to be in that battle, maybe, and have a number nine up against him. Whereas if you give him something to do in terms of Diaz dragging people out, that's something else for him to think about, and that also brings Liverpool's wingers then into centre forward positions, which of course you definitely want with Mo Salah, and obviously Gakpo's had a really good season as well. And I just think Liverpool have played the best football this season with Diaz in that number nine position. He tried it. First time he tried it, I think, was for the Leverkusen game, and they won that 4-0 at Anfield, and kind of the best period of the season, which followed that, the wins over Real Madrid, Man City. You saw a lot of Diaz in that number nine position. So I think he's favouring that at the moment. He changed it at Chelsea, but he changed quite a few positions. But the Tottenham game was Diaz in the centre forward role. So I expect he's going to go back to that because it's still an imperfect solution. But, because Diaz is not a centre forward as well as he's done there are imperfections when he plays there. And Liverpool will 100% look for a number nine in this summer window. But there are bigger question marks over Jota. The injuries look like they've really hurt him at this point. He just looks like he's off it, miles off it at the moment. Not even getting in the positions to kind of finish things off. And Nunes is so erratic, which he kind of always has been while he's been at Liverpool. So Diaz is possibly the best starting centre forward that Liverpool have got. And so I expect him to go as strong as he possibly can for this one. And I think that is Diaz in that position.
Interesting stuff. Yeah, and on that, that full strength Liverpool side, you'd expect it would therefore be maybe Andy Robertson coming back in left back. Of course, back at the Emirates in October, it was Saka who managed to get a number on Robertson for that opening goal. So for you, Charles, we'd expect that Saka would be starting this one, unless he picks up an injury against PSG, but then it could be Waneri, who, may also do a decent job against Robertson on that side. So, I mean, that right flank for Arsenal, we've spoken about how crucial it's been all season for them. And given that either Robertson or Tsimikas have not really convinced all season, one of them will be starting there. For you, Charles, is that the area that Arsenal just have to attack and have to focus on?
Yeah, well, I mean, it's Arsenal's strongest weapon of attack, the right hand side. It's been that for the last couple of seasons. It'll be interesting who he plays at fullback. I think obviously that they're going to patch up Urin Timber and hope that he can get through tonight. But it wouldn't surprise me if he gets the weekend off, and Ben White comes in on the right hand side, and then you will see the sort of White Odegaard Saka triangle, which has served Arsenal so well over the last couple of years. Obviously, unfortunately, Ben White's a kind of million miles away from his best form at the moment because he's only just coming back from so long out and the knee surgery he's had, and Odegaard's really struggling as well. So it's probably not going to have the same sort of effect that it could do if all three of them were bang on form. But I think that is probably the way that they will go. And again with Saka, he's not quite looked on it consistently since he's come back from the injury, which is to be expected after 4 months out. So it's kind of work in progress for Arsenal down that right hand side. But I think that will be what it'll be. I when I look at the team that he'll play on Sunday, I think he will go as full strength as he possibly can. But it might be again the fullbacks who might change out. If everyone stays fit tonight, he might go with White and then maybe replace Lewis Skelly if needs be on the left hand side. But if Skelly's all right and his fitness is okay, then I imagine he'll start.
Interesting stuff. Yeah, okay, brilliant. So I've just touched on Mohamed Salah quite briefly. So this will be a clash between two sides who have produced, or not produced, but have had arguably the two best Premier League players of all time in Thierry Henry and Mohamed Salah. And of course, given how scintillating Salah has been this season, there's been lots of debate. Is he at Henry's level? Has he gone past Henry's level? Of course, he's got more Premier League goals now, Salah. I think he is obviously the same number of titles now, but Henry's still got that single season assist record. At the moment, he's got more golden boots. So same question to both of you, starting with you, Charles. I think I know your answer to this one, but for you, is Thierry Henry still the Premier League GOAT, or is Salah matched or gone past his level now?
No, Thierry. Of course it's Thierry. I'm sure David's going to give a completely different answer. But no, Mohamed Salah is unbelievable. And this has been a generational season from him. And he's been, by distance, the best player in the league this season. And deserves all the plaudits that come his way. And he's one of the Premier League all-time greats. But I've still never seen a player like Thierry Henry in my life. He was just an absolute freak. You talk to any defender from that era. I've already mentioned Jamie Carragher. The guy literally must shut his eyes now and still have nightmares of Thierry Henry 20 years later. You ask any defender of that era who was the toughest player, who they would have sleepless nights over, it'd be Thierry Henry. His all-round game was just sensational. The arrogance about him it's just something we'll never see again. I don't think in the Premier League. He changed football, I think. And yeah, he still shades it for me. But yeah, Mohamed Salah has certainly forced his way into that conversation, no doubt about that. An absolute fabulous, fabulous player.
Do you agree, David?
Yeah, I mean, this is the thing for me. I mean, it probably will go down kind of club lines, and for me, Thierry Henry was always the Premier League's greatest player we've ever seen, and he probably still is in my mind as well. But the fact that Salah is anywhere near him, I just think shows the level we were talking about as a player. I mean, when he signed and he was came in from Roma and he was a Chelsea reject, I just thought I did not expect this. I'll say that much. He's just been unbelievable, and he has matched Henry's title hauls, which I think is important in terms of people do put a lot of kind of weight on that, don't they? In terms of, well, he won more Premier League titles, so Salah's there now. He's got the golden boots. He can close in on the assist record. He's got 3 games left to get 3 assists. It's possible. I know he would absolutely love to get that, and surpassed him in terms of Premier League all-time top scorers as well. So. He is, at the very least, if he's not better, then he's very, very, very close, and maybe close to an equal, which is just phenomenal, because Thierry Henry, as Charles said, is just an absolute freak of nature, a joy to watch. And I saw him take Liverpool apart many a time down the years. So the fact that Liverpool have been able to have a player who is close to that level at the very least is, it's very thrilling for Liverpool supporters.
Absolutely, yeah. So if Henry is still the greatest for you, David, is Salah now the second greatest? Has he hit that level?
He's got to be in that conversation, hasn't he? I mean, you've got to be saying that he's in the kind of top 5 at the worst in the top 5 Premier League players we've ever seen, because the goals, the assists, the golden boots, the trophy haul that he's been part of as well. So he has won things. The fact he's got an unbelievable record in big games as well. I mean, I think he's got a kind of I think he's Liverpool, or sorry, the top scorer or in the top 10 goal scorers at Old Trafford in the last kind of decade or something like that. It's these freakish stats that he's coming up with in terms of his ability to impact the biggest of games, and then he impacts all the other games as well, because he scores against everyone. He's in that Premier League greatest ever player conversation, which is utterly remarkable. And as I say, not something you would have thought when he came to the club, because there were so many question marks over him. Nobody thought this was a nailed-on signing that would do anything like this. And in fact, he's prolonging it to this late in his career as well. And I'm sure he might not have a season like this next year, but he will at the very least be Liverpool's top scorer. So he'll continue climbing that list. And, by the time he finishes, is there one more contract in him even? Where will he be in that terms of all-time top scorers? And, where will he be in terms of the debate? If he does have a few more seasons, does it push him ahead of Henry in the collective consciousness? We'll have to see. But he's the one thing we know for certain. He's an absolutely phenomenal player, and he's been a joy to watch.
Wouldn't have been bad in the same team, would they? One on the right, one on the left.
Wow.
Devastating.
I think that's what Liverpool are looking for this summer when they try and sign a centre forward. But if they get anyone close to Henry, they've done pretty well.
I reckon Henry could still do a pretty good job. He's what, 47? He'd be fine. He'd be fine up there.
He looks like he could, honestly. Every time you see him, it's like still looks like an absolute prime Premier League player. He's unbelievable, the shape he keeps himself in.
Yeah, absolutely phenomenal on and off the pitch, Henri. But all right, fantastic. So we've got a few minutes left, so we'll just finish up by getting both of your predictions for this one. So, firstly, Charles, it's difficult to say, of course, given that Arsenal haven't faced PSG just yet. But what do you think will happen this weekend? I mean, what's your scoreline prediction? How do you think the game's gonna pan out?
I mean, I've just been scarred by Anfield for the last. Well, I think basically since 1989, Anfield gods have just decided, right, you had that night, you're not going to have any more joy at this place, and you're just going to concede 5 every time you come here. To be fair, they've actually got a draw in each of the last two games, and it's been. It must have been it's been about 3 years now since they've lost a game against one of the sort of big six, home or away, Arsenal. So they do turn up in these games and tend to find a way of getting a result, even if it's not a win. They'll get themselves a draw. But I just think coming off the back of PSG tonight, the travel, the sheer sort of mental, physical, emotional toll that this game's going to take out of them, win or lose, and the fact Liverpool have had a week to prepare, and this is going to be the sort of big sort of start of this. Well, not the start, but in the middle of the sort of celebration where they can play with a lot of freedom. I would just be very surprised if it's anything but a Liverpool win. So yeah, unfortunately, I'm going to side with a home win on this one.
Yeah, I think it was 2012 the last time Arsenal won a league game at Anfield with those Podolski and Santi Cazorla goals. Of course, they won there in the League Cup penalties during the COVID year, but that feels like a age ago now, those days of empty stadiums. Like you say, they have been, I think, yeah, the last two or three have been drawn at Anfield. But I mean, David, do you agree with Charles' assessment? Do you think this has got Liverpool victory written all over it?
Yeah, I just totally agree in terms of the PSG game is going to take something out of Arsenal, isn't it? And, Liverpool, even if it's a tight game, will probably come on a little bit stronger towards the end. They've had that week's rest. They've got so much strength in depth that Arsenal have been really hit for in it recently as well. They're missing a lot of players still who are important to them. So, and I think Anfield's going to be electric and up for it, and all the fans are going to kind of want to see that statement win I alluded to earlier. So, yeah, I do fancy a Liverpool winning this one, and maybe if you want a score line, I fancy a 2-0 because I just think Liverpool have won. That's been kind of their go-to score line this season. That's a very Arne Slot score line to win 2-0. So yeah, that wouldn't surprise me at all.
Yeah, so some goals, but not a high scoring classic, which I think is fair enough. All right, brilliant. So thank you very much, Charles and David. That's all the time we have for this week's episode. So thank you to everyone for watching and listening. Hopefully, we'll have a very good game this weekend. Be sure to check out our previews and features on sportsmole.co.uk ahead of the game. Until now, thank you, Charles. Thank you, David. Enjoy the game. And hopefully, yes, hopefully a good game for the neutrals, a good game for you, Charles, good game for you, David. And we'll return with our individual calls next week discussing the result and looking ahead to the rest of the season.